Event is starting and we're live. Hey guys, you're watching Tech Radar. I'm Basil and I'm being joined by the Razer phone and the Huawei Mate 10 Pro. This says we're live. We've got some questions from you guys in the live chat window. If you haven't used one of our or watched one of our live shows before, you can comment. I will answer. That's how it works. It's not super complicated. I've been using both of these phones for over a week, so I'm very, very well versed with regards to how they stack up in day-to-day use, battery, gaming, the speakers. I can tell you a lot about these phones, but I don't want to tell you what I want to tell you about these phones. I want to tell you what you want to hear. So we're going to start off by jumping into the live chat room where I can give a few people shout outs. So first off, apologies for being 10 minutes late. That was down to technical issues. If you persevered, had patience, and you are still with us, thank you. You guys, you are awesome. First shout out Quet and also to Monchito94. So Quet says his name is Jeff, so we should shout out to Jeff. Monchito94 wants camera and battery information, and I will be coming on to that. Also, quick shout outs to Mio Assassin. We've got the British Unknown. Hello, the British Unknown. Hopefully you can see and hear me clearly. Sherwin Vlogs, Amir MM, and Prakash Chandra. Right. You guys, thank you. First off, a little bit of an overview as to how much you're going to be paying for these phones. Both of them flagship spec. You've got a Snapdragon 835 with 8GB of RAM in the Razer phone, which is top of the line, and you've got a Kirin 970 with 6GB of RAM in the Mate 10 Pro. The Mate 10 Pro may have less RAM, but it has a much more premium design, and and I say premium, the Razer phone feels solid, but it isn't as slick, isn't as sleek, isn't as elegant. That's why the Mate 10 Pro, in the UK at least, is more expensive, £699 sterling. Now the Razer phone is available for that kind of price, but it's also available for a lot less. If you pick it up on 3 here in the UK, you can get it for as little as £605. For that kind of speccage, with this kind of screen, which I will come on to, it's 120 Hz refresh rate, off the chart. That's a really, really decent price. So hats off to Razer and 3 for managing to hit it. But as to how they stack up, I'm going to jump onto your questions before I give you my opinions. Okay, so how is the Razer phone's camera? That's the consistent one, and I'm going with the British Unknowns question here, but it is one that a fair few of you have asked. The Razer phone's camera is fine. It's not mind-blowing on its own, but you can make it a lot better than it is. So if you've geeked out on XDA developers, or you aren't afraid of installing an APK, for anyone who doesn't know what an APK is, it's like an exe file on Windows. So it's just the application you install outside of the Google Play Store. You can install another camera application that will actually take better pictures than the standard camera application. As a result, the Razer camera itself has a lot of potential, specifically around the Google Pixel camera, which some users have tweaked, modded on XDA developers. That APK delivered really great results from the camera. Also, the audio quality from the microphone's good if you like recording video, but the lack of image stabilization though may hold you back. So I need to step back because I've jumped straight into the minutiae, straight into the detail. What do you get on here? You get 12 megapixel dual cameras on the Razer, one with a 2x zoom and one with a wider angle lens. Now, the lack of image stabilization means in low light on its own it's not going to perform well, especially when you up the exposure a little bit. But if you install something like the Google camera application through the APK method I was talking about, you can get some really great high dynamic range shots. Also, the default camera application slows down a fair bit. It's really annoying because you've got this Snapdragon 835 device with 8GB of RAM, more power than you would expect in a lot of PCs and Chromebooks, and yet it does slow down. But third-party camera applications seem to do a fair bit better, specifically the Google one. So the camera, like I said, is good, but if we were going to call this a camera off, I think it's pretty obvious which one is going to win, and that is the Huawei Mate 10 Pro. The Mate 10 Pro camera isn't perfect. If you haven't already checked it out, check out our side-by-side between the Mate 10 Pro's camera, the Note 8 camera, the iPhone 8 Plus camera, and the Pixel 2 XL. The Huawei Mate 10 Pro has a tendency to overexpose, but it also has it gives you the ability to reel that back in, and it also gives you tons of manual modes out of the box. Okay, so camera, Mate 10 Pro wins that round, but the Razer one was has the potential to be better than I honestly thought it would be. And for the price you're paying, given what else you get in the package, it's really, really decent. So your next question, are either of them better than the OnePlus 5? I would say they were both better than the OnePlus 5, and they were both worse than the OnePlus 5. They're both better in the sense that they are more spec'd out. The camera's better on the Mate 10 Pro, but they're both worse in that they're both a fair bit more expensive than the OnePlus 5. So the OnePlus 5 is still the value champion when it comes to Snapdragon 835 devices, without a shadow of a doubt. How about Rafael Sousa? Do you think the Razer phone is all hype? Do you think the Razer phone's hype? So I'm going to run over the specs of this phone. You've got a 5.7-inch Quad HD display. It's an IGZO display made by Sharp. Now, these IGZO Sharp displays are like Sharp, as the company name suggests, but they can also offer up to 120 hertz refresh rate. It's a specific one, and what that means is you've got super silky smooth scrolling, panning gaming, and it really is all about the gaming on here. So do I think it's a hype? Well, first thing that it's done off the cuff is brought a world first technology to smartphones, which could be hype, but it is also kind of cool that Razer's leading the way here. You also have two of the loudest front speakers that I've ever seen or heard on a smartphone. They can get a little bit tinny, but they get crazy, crazy loud. I was at a wedding last week and I pulled this out and everyone around me could hear at a really loud wedding, and I was outside, we were all drinking and everything, and this was really audible. So if you're in the pub, you want a phone that you can just show your friends YouTube videos and not have to worry about them not being able to hear. This is, again, pretty class leading in that respect. Definitely louder than an iPhone 8 Plus, for example. Can get tinny at the top volumes, can hurt your eardrums, but very, very loud. What you also get on here is a square phone, and square phones might sound a little bit annoying, but what's amazing about them for gaming is when you've got rounded sides, it can get really slippery and awkward when you're holding it in portrait, in landscape mode. This just feels exceptional. So between the fact you've always got the sound facing you if you haven't got headphones jammed in, you've also got that squared off design, and you've got that big display with 120 hertz refresh rate. Is it hype? That's going to come down to you. I'd say, just having used it a week in, it's a very good phone. It has a 4000 milliamp battery as well, so that's nice and big. But if you don't like gaming and you don't like the really bold design of this phone, then it will be just hype, and you would be better served with a more kind of, I guess, accessible phone like the Huawei Mate 10, which by anyone's standards is a very good looking phone. Right, so hopefully that's answered your question, Raphael. Ultimate Gamer says, hey Tech Radar. Hey Ultimate Gamer. Still more cameras about the Razer. RAM management for the Razer phone, Amir M.M. So Amir's asked how the 8GB of RAM is managed on the Razer phone. Now, the Razer has this thing called Game Booster, which is an application to help optimize performance when you're actually gaming on it. You can also control the output of the screen from Quad HD to Full HD to 720p so that you put less strain on the internals. And on top of that, the reason 8GB of RAM is on here is because Razer wants you to be able to game and still keep background processors going so you can multitask in and out of games. That's something I did a fair bit of just to like pressure test this phone. It has 8GB of RAM by contrast to the 6GB of RAM in the Huawei Mate 10 Pro. Both of these are amazing gaming phones, but I will say that the Razer gaming phone, it's just feels more fit for purpose for gaming. The Huawei Mate 10 Pro, the speaker, the bottom speaker is the louder of the two speakers, and when you're holding it in portrait, you can see I've got quite big hands. It can be quite easy to cover up. As far as RAM management goes, I didn't see any slowdown across either, even when pressure testing them, but that's, I mean, you know, when you get to 8GB of RAM, that's really for the hardcore gamers out there. So Amir, I'm interested to know how you find it if indeed you pick one up. Guys, what's your minimum kind of RAM requirement? Because you've now got to the point where you've got 3GB of RAM on an iPhone, you've got 4GB of RAM on a Samsung S8 and an LG V30, and you're going all the way up to 8GB of RAM with everything in between. So I'm interested to know, how much do you actually care about RAM? Okay, so Kevin Regan, I need to replace my Note 8. I've narrowed it down to these two phones. Well, that's a good thing we're doing this live show. But you'd miss the IR blaster if you went with the Razer. Yeah, so the Razer doesn't have an IR blaster, and so therefore can't double up as a remote control, whereas the Huawei Mate 10 Pro does. If that's a big deal for you, then the Mate 10 Pro is the obvious choice. There are a few other areas the Mate 10 Pro is the obvious choice. It's got an OLED display, so therefore what you end up with is a deeper, punchier display. The HDR10 technology is really nice. It plays very nicely with Amazon Prime Video and Netflix, and you can get some really, really great like color reproduction there, and viewing angles are really fair, unlike the viewing angles on the Pixel 2's OLED display, but it is not as sharp as the Razer phone. So the Razer phone with its quad HD resolution just looks very, very crisp. Reading text, scrolling through Twitter and everything, it's going to be so much better on the Razer phone. I will say though, just in hand, the Razer phone feels significantly more cumbersome, more beefy. It feels like a much bigger phone. It's got a 5.7-inch screen versus a 6-inch screen, but because of the 18:9 aspect ratio and the smaller bezels on the Mate 10 Pro, the Mate 10 Pro feels more accessible. The Razer phone, it totally feels like a boy's toy or a girl who likes the games toy, or like, but it is very much like, this is, I'm getting this to be a gaming device. It's not something that someone would be like, I just want a standard phone and this looks like a good one, so I'm gonna get it. But as it happens, it is a decent phone. But when you've got something like this, which is so much more accessible at a similar kind of price point, the choice is yours. I feel like I rambled in that one, but hopefully I conveyed the ultimate message as to how fair the Razer phone is. Okay, let's see. Oh, you guys are throwing so many questions in here. Amazing. Give me 2 shakes. Okay, back to you. So Kevin, if you need to replace your phone, either one will be a good one. Battery life on the Mate 10 Pro is better. That's the only other thing I need to add to that one. Anthony Oliver, should I get an iPhone 8 because I have an LG X Power? That's not what this video is about, dude. This video is about the Razer and the Mate 10. But the iPhone 8 is a decent phone for what it's worth. You can check out Gareth's video review or John's video review on techradar.com and on our YouTube channel. Solid phone, not mind-blowing, but very, very decent. Franco Mastelli, Mate 10 Pro. So he gives the vote to the Mate 10 Pro. Monchito94. When you buy the Huawei Mate 10, they give you a Moleskine and pencil for free. That's cool. When you buy the Razer, that's, yeah, really, really worth noting as well. You can buy the Razer in a limited edition green version if you're getting it early. So if you pre-order it or order it in Microsoft stores in the US. So if you're a serious Razer fan, that will be absolutely incredible for you. Which always on display do you prefer? And to either have interactive always on displays with icons. So they're not interactive always on displays. And I'd say that the Razer one conveys a bit more information. Generally with always on displays, I'm leaning towards AMOLEDs because they've got that base level of deep dark, and then the always on part just illuminates out of it. But what you have with the Razer is just a significantly greater amount of information conveyed, which is cool. Daniel Carter says, hey Basil. Hey Daniel, hope all's good and you are enjoying the phones that you are using right now. How does a Razer phone handle heat when gaming? I haven't had any heat issues. I've gamed for extensive periods of time, played Injustice 2, played everything at 100, or everything I could play at 120 Hertz, and I didn't notice any significant heat issues. The only time it got warm was when it was in my pocket, the screen accidentally was fired on, and it was a mobile hotspot, and that is to be expected. So Al Reed says, hi Basil, I bet you didn't know you had a 64-year-old Scott who says you're his hero. Oh, thanks Al, that's really, really sweet. Keep up the super work, my friend. I absolutely will do my best. Charging time from 0 to 4,000 on the Razer phone. The Razer phone has a 4,000 milliamp battery. It supports Quick Charge 4 Plus, and I think it's nearish the 2-hour mark. But if you charge it 1 hour and 45 minutes, I like loosely time charged it the other day, but both of these phones are going to charge super fast. The fact of the matter is, though, talking about battery life, the Mate 10 can eke you into 2 days battery life, whereas you're only going to get 1 day in the Razer phone. The Razer phone, it might be a case of the screen's more demanding, IPS versus AMOLED, or OLED display should I say, but it doesn't have the battery life that you might expect from a 4000 milliamp battery. But it also has a big screen. 5.7 inches when it's this wide is actually around the same kind of surface area as a 6-inch screen, 18:9. But the Mate 10 Pro black battery has completely floored me. If you want the best battery flagship around right now, this is it. The Mate 10 even, which has very similar credentials, the same software and everything, won't last as long as this. We have a test that we do in the office, and we play an hour and a half of video playback, and it's full HD. There's Wi-Fi connected to the devices, and the Mate 10 Pro only went down to 91%, whereas the Mate 10 and the Razer phone both went to 81%, and the Razer phone was slightly less. So it's really good. I'm super impressed with the battery. Where the Razer wins out is that smoothness, though. That 120 hertz frame rate of that screen is just unique. So Pratim, hey Pratim, how does the high refresh rate of the Razer actually make a difference to regular day-to-day use, not while gaming? So the high refresh rate of the Razer makes a massive difference to scrolling, specifically applications like Twitter, emails, browsing through web pages. You know, when you get to that point where you know something's at the bottom of a web page and you just want to get to the bottom really quickly, scroll. When you do that, it's like crazy because you can actually see the words go up rather than just this like anomalous blur of random stuff just fly through the screen. So Pratim, that's an answer to your question. When gaming, it really does only impact it massively when games are optimized, and it has to be said at this point, only 4 games preloaded on the device are optimized. Well, there are only 4 games preloaded on the device, and they're the only ones currently optimized. Razer is working with third-party manufacturers or game developers like Namco, Bandai Namco with Tekken. Also, it's Square Enix with Final Fantasy. You've got Final Fantasy 15, the kind of chibi character-based version, which will be launching later this year on Android, and that's going to be 120 hertz optimized. I think it's good for game developers to develop games for this speed anyway, because it's going to future-proof the games. But right now, 4 games, but they do come preloaded, and they're not bad games at all. Right, let's see what else you guys are saying. Which one is better, Razer phone or Huawei Mate 10? Mate 10 or Mate 10 Pro? If you say Mate, I'd say again it's going to come down to what you prefer. I'd say the one that's going to please the broader spectrum of people, the Mate 10 Pro is going to be the more versatile one. The Razer is going to be the one for, like, I guess, geekier people who just really want to focus on gaming, and that's in terms of ergonomics, from the in-hand feel right through to that incredible refresh rate on the screen, and even down to the fact that Nova, the user interface, is really nice and customizable, but so too is Emotion UI. It's also worth noting none of these have headphone jacks, and the Huawei Mate 10 Pro is the only one that's IP67 water and dust resistant. So if you do anticipate yourself going for a dunk with your phone, this will be the one to have. Now, both of these phones have some things in the boxes that the others don't. So you've got a dongle in the box of the Razer. It has a DAC inside, a 24-bit DAC, so it's going to be better for audio quality, whereas Huawei hasn't confirmed that they will be shipping their Mate 10 Pros with USB to 3.5mm dongles. But what Huawei does do is preload their phone with a screen protector, and they also put a case in the box to protect it, and it's a really nice form-fitting case. The Razer is a bigger device, so putting a case on it in itself is going to make it pretty mammoth. But what's also a point to note is the metal finish feels very like good, but it looks very clean, and as soon as you scuff this thing up, it's going to be really heartbreaking. So the fact there isn't a case in the box is a bit of a shame, really. What's also worth noting, the grill, it's got grill above and below the screen. They have like these micro punched holes in them, and they can attract, if you put these in like dusty pockets and stuff, the beautiful black kind of grill pattern will become tarnished quite quickly. I've already got some gunk in mine, which isn't great. So hopefully that helped you answer that question. Which processor is more battery efficient, the Snapdragon 835 or the Kirin 970? Interesting question. It's really hard to say with that because a lot of it comes down to software optimizations that Huawei applies and Razer applies. Like I've said, despite placing a similar amount of pressure on the processors and on the batteries, sorry, because these two benchmark very similarly, and they have similar amounts of RAM, and they have, I guess you have a quad HD screen versus a full HD screen, but the Mate 10 regular has a full HD screen. I'd say that the Kirin, just based on these two devices, is a little bit more power efficient, just because first time we got this phone, the battery was shocking, really bad, because there was a software bug that meant the Google Play Store was constantly connecting to the internet and sapping your battery. But as soon as that fix landed, both this and the Mate 10 Pro have had good battery. This has had excellent battery. The fact that it's literally the best battery on any smartphone, flagship smartphone out now, suggests the Kirin 970. But until Huawei makes Snapdragon 835 phone with this kind of speckage, we can't really say for sure whether it's coming down to software optimizations or the battery or the processor itself. What's new with fast charging 4 Plus? That's from Roshan. It's faster. That's pretty much the extent of it. So you can get more of those milliamps powered up in less time. Amar, how about comparing it to the Xiaomi Mi 6? So any comparisons with Xiaomi devices are a challenge for us. We're based in the UK, so we don't necessarily get access to those devices. We have international offices in Australia, in the United States as well. And actually Xiaomi devices unfortunately aren't available in the key areas that we operate. But that said, if you have any recommendations for Xiaomi devices you want us to really try and get in, let us know and we will do our best. Hurry entirely new phone, always at least one new unique thing, which Razer also has. So yeah, the Razer does have a couple of unique things, but specifically it is that screen which separates it from the crowd. What's also really nice is the fact that Razer is doing a lot of partnering with games developers to get them on board, because they really need that. If you're a Razer fan, I've heard, like, I'm not super sold into the world of like laptop gaming, and Razer is, I know of the brand and I've heard of them for years, but they have this kind of cult following of people who just buy all their stuff. So I'd be really interested to know, because if I use this phone, I really like it because I like mobile gaming, but would I be able to recommend it to everyone? I'm not sure. But are there enough Razer fans to make this phone worth existing? Again, I'm not sure, but I'm really interested to find out. It is a really solid phone. It isn't as accessible as the Mate 10 Pro. Huawei's had a lot of years developing their like perfect formula for what makes a good smartphone, and this is, I feel, is the first time Huawei's really cracked a device that could actually just suit pretty much everyone. But yeah, Razer, this is a very good gaming phone. Whether it's going to be for a broader spectrum of people than that remains to be seen. So let's see what you guys are also saying. A lot of you are asking about the Kirin processor. Did I test the camera? Anto, yeah, the camera is good, but not great. The optical image stabilization means that the Mate 10 Pro is better in low light. Unfortunately, the Razer default software isn't mind-blowing, but if you get a third-party camera application, it works very nicely. How much does the Razer phone cost? That's from Sashi. It's going to depend on your region. Here in the UK, it's on £595 plus £10 top up that you have to apply. So that's a total of £605 for arguably what could be the most powerful Android phone in the world. So it benchmarks exactly the same as the 8GB OnePlus 8. Ultimate Gamer, what phone do you use, TechRadar? Whatever phone we are all reviewing. So we've got John now currently on the Razer as well. We've got James on another phone. There are just a lot of phones, and oft times we can't actually talk about the phones we're reviewing, so you have to stay tuned to the channel. But Gareth has been reviewing the iPhone 10, and we're going to be filming our review tomorrow, so it should be up later this week, but he's already written all of his words, and there are a lot of them. So techradar.com for his iPhone 10 review. A bit of a spoiler, it's a good one, but it's £1,000. Speaking of £1,000, I don't have it here, but I've also got the Porsche 10 version of the Porsche design version of the Mate 10 Pro. So the Mate 10 Porsche design, for anyone who really likes to just spend a little bit more money without that much benefit, this one's for you. It has double the storage, so that is a cool thing, but it's like 1,350 euros or something like that. It's a very good looking phone, but yeah, any questions about the Porsche design one, let me know in the comments or live chat. Is the Razer phone just made for gaming? That's from Unboxed Gamer. Hopefully I just answered that in my really long-winded answer. British Unknown, Razer phone is really damn cheap on 3. Yeah, so that's exactly what I was just saying. If you're here in the UK, the Razer phone is just an excellent price, and I'm really impressed that 3's been able to hit that price point. But that said, for £95 more, you could, or £94 more, because this is $699 offline, the Huawei Mate 10 Pro, you could potentially be getting a more kind of broadly appealing phone. But hey, this hasn't got a lot of the things that does. Can you cover the secondary rear Razer camera and try to zoom in? With that, we can see at the point the Razer uses a telephoto lens. Okay, let's get on this. So we've got Xbox controller in the background. Let's fire up the camera. Tom, are you good with this?
Yep.
Amazing. So you've got Xbox controller in the background. So what Razer, in fact, I actually have the Google camera application open. Fire up the primary camera and reverse that. So you can see that's the primary zoom. In order to zoom in, you can't swipe up left or right. You have to pinch to zoom, and it's a seamless transition between the two. It doesn't actually indicate when it goes from the primary to the secondary camera. So just to reiterate, I'm opening up the Razer camera application, tapping through on that, pinching in, dragging the slider, and it seems to be a completely seamless interaction between the primary and the secondary camera. The options for the Razer camera are very limited. What I'm going to do, just to further test that theory that I was engaging in both cameras, I'm going to actually put my finger over the bottom camera and the top camera now, and I'm going to drag over all the way, and then I'm going to put over the bottom camera and the top camera, so it does change it out. So what I've got my finger over the bottom camera now. What I'm going to do, pinch out, so bottom camera. So there you go. You see, that's the point at which it swaps, so roughly halfway. And as far as an angle of view goes, just being really general, like that's what you're going to get. And the 2x zoom, yeah, is going to give you about a 1, 2, 3, so about a 6x digital zoom, and that's just a complete estimation. So hopefully that's answered that question. I learned something new in that one today as well. That's actually the most seamless transition between two cameras that I've seen. Much more seamless than LG switch between wide angle and regular angle. Okay, so games optimized 120 hertz, 4 games, Amir, like I said, and they are preloaded on here, and they are Arena of Valor, Titanfall, Assault, Gear Club, and World of Tanks. I was playing a fair bit of Gear Club, that's quite fun. John was playing a fair bit of Titanfall Assault. My personal favorite games on the Play Store, Assassin's Creed, Identity, and Injustice 2 and Final Fantasy obviously aren't available at 120 hertz, but they do still look excellent. So it's just as good for games that aren't 120 hertz or frames per second. So Kevin, thanks for answering. No problem. They're working on a couple of companies to optimize games for 120 hertz. Yes, they are. DVS Sandeep Reddy says, hi Tom. Hi Tom. Stereo speaker comparison from Irfan. I'm not going to play it now because I haven't got both of these devices. Actually, I could do. Yeah, let me put something on that we can, if you've got a little bit of patience while I set this whole process up. We'll play some, we're going to have to play one of our videos. In fact, no, this isn't connected to the internet and I'm not going to. But what I can say for sure is that the Razer is a lot louder. The Razer is a louder speaker. It's not like they both get quite tinny and pitchy in the top ends. But the Razer speaker carries so much more volume than any other phone that I've used. I think it's the same as the ZTE Axon 7 speaker. I think it might be the same component. The top and the bottom speaker have a driver, but don't quote me on that. But yeah, a lot of power there. And so the Mate 10 loses out in the speaker. 10 Pro loses out in the speaker department. Right, what else are you guys saying? Gaming experience comparison from Amirul Irfan. If you play deep dark games with a lot of vibrant colors, then the Mate 10 Pro looks a bit better because it's got that OLED display if they're not optimized for the phone. But the additional screen size of the Razer phone, the shape of the Razer phone, that 120 Hertz experience when you're playing those games, I mean, both of these are going to be absolutely cracking. Razer looks cool and feels worth it. You keep making really awesome videos. Really glad you think so, Anand. The British Unknown, prepare for more screenshot memes, Basil. Thanks for being a troll. So we've got a question from from AK. Should I go with the Mate 10 Pro or Note 8? The thing I care about most is smoothness. Both in that case, they are both as smooth as each other. I would say if you want the pen, you want the better screen, you want the bigger screen, the Note 8. But the Note 8's battery is significantly worse than the Razer phone. But the Note 8 is, for me personally, one of my favorite devices. If you haven't checked my speed sketching video, type Google, Note 8 speed sketching, and you'll see me drawing on it. And that's why I'd probably pick the Note 8 as my daily driver, just because it's got a pen. But I'm fully aware not everyone has that. The Mate 10 Pro will probably be a more fit for purpose phone for most people. Is Tech Radar in India? Yes, it is. It's on Facebook, so you can check it out. DVS Sandeep. Prakash Chandra, which phone captures better photos in low light? The Mate 10 Pro. In fact, the Mate 10 Pro, if you're prepared to put it on a tripod, get a slow shutter speed going, you can do light trails, you can do ghost effects, you can make some really beautiful artistic shots happen. Lulup, what is the circle besides the front-facing camera in the Razer phone? Is it a sensor or a flash? It is a sensor. So it's a proximity sensor, so that when you hold the phone close to your face, the screen switches off. And we've got so many questions today. Thanks, guys. This was meant to wrap up like 10 minutes ago, but I'm happy. Kuntia, do you think the Mate 10 will get screen burn issues like the Pixel 2? It may not. Emotion UI does a really good thing, and it hides the notifications tray. I've set it to hide when I set it to, but you can see the not notifications, navigation bar, that's the one. So what will create burn-in is when you've got a consistent array of icons. So the fact you've got the option to hide the navigation bar, which is something Google's kind of introduced in an update to the Pixel 2, that navigation bar fades into the background, is going to suggest that this won't necessarily get burn-in there, which is where people have seen burn-in on the Pixel 2 XL. But we'll have to watch this space. A lot of the questions around the Mate 10 are really a case of watch this space. The AI story, you can't really talk about AI, artificial intelligence, and how it's going to learn how you use your phone when you've only been using it for 2 weeks. But what we are saying is that within those 2 weeks, it's really impressed us. And the EMUI desktop experience is significantly more versatile than I thought it would be. I thought it would just be the proprietary Huawei applications, but you can even play stuff like Assassin's Creed on your big screen, hook up your controller, and it's really decent. All right, what else are you guys saying? Pele, the Razer phone can be set on battery saving settings, adjust it, and should... Yeah, so yeah, you can put battery saving settings on both of these phones to extend the battery life. And generally, when we talk about battery life, we're talking in the out of the box mode, with no battery settings on. So LOL, everyone is obsessed with burn-in now. That's from Stop Media Fakery. Ahmed says, camera test please. I'm the one. Is HDR10 an improvement? Even though the Mate 10 is just Full HD. So there's been a lot of talk about the Full HD screen on the Mate 10 Pro, and that's by contrast to the Quad HD display. And it really is going to depend on what you want. If you're watching movies and it's a Full HD display and has that HDR10, me personally, I prefer that punch, prefer that pop of the OLED paired with that HDR10, by contrast to maybe a little bit more clarity on the Razer phone. But if you're reading and there's like a lot of text heavy content for emails and stuff like that, actually the screen of the Razer phone is a little bit, it's crisper, it's sharper, and those whites have, I guess, like lower contrast levels, so it doesn't feel quite as extreme. I don't know, like I personally would take the screen on the Mate 10 Pro over an IPS display generally, because resolution at my old age isn't as big of an issue. My eyesight isn't as pin sharp as it was, but if you can genuinely pick up this screen and see pixels, or even see that it is a less sharp screen, then by all means go for a sharper screen. I'm kind of grateful that I can't, because it just looks really, really good. Are we going to see more than two cameras in smartphones? I guess there's nothing else at this point. I'm waiting for front-facing dual cameras. I think Asus released the Zenfone Selfie or something with 2 front cameras, so we'll see what happens. But at this point, I think there's a lot more that people can do, because look what Google's done with the Pixel 2 and Pixel 2 XL. They've gone and made a single camera phone be the best automatic camera phone around when it comes to just pointing and taking a photo. So if Google's able to do that with 1 camera, imagine what they can do with 2. What's your opinion about the Mate 10 Porsche design? From Anand, it's a great phone because the Mate 10 Pro is a great phone. It's just a very expensive great phone. 256 gigabytes of storage might be overkill. 128 is plenty for me. But if you do like a lot of files, then the fact it isn't expandable will bug you out, and the 256 gigs is amazing. If you can afford it, you're not going to go wrong. What's also really nice is in the box of the Mate 10 Pro, you get both a UK and a European charger, and you get 2 USB-C charging cables, as well as a flip case. But you're not going to be paying like hundreds and hundreds of euros for that, when you could just buy that all separately. So if all you want is specs, get the Mate 10 Pro. But if you want that Porsche design look and feel, and I say look and feel, I really just mean look, because the feel is identical to the regular Mate 10 Pro, get the Mate 10 Pro. What else are you saying? Akari Ayub, who have more fast charging? I do not know which is the fastest charger of the two. Both support very, very fast charging. Basil, is the Mate 10 Pro your favorite phone right now? I'd say for a lot of key things when it comes to battery, when it comes to value for money in the flagship space, it is my favorite phone right now, because while I'd prefer to use the Note 8 because of that pen, the Note 8's over £800, and there's a lot of stuff you can do with the money in between, and also it doesn't come with the value adds in the box, like the case, like this onboard screen protector. So yeah, the Mate 10 Pro, for the battery, for the value adds, and for the value for money in general, is an excellent phone. Right, we're almost there, Hey, about being a gamer, Absin Rajaram asks, which is the best all-round package, Note 8, Mate 10 Pro, or Razer? So if you're a gamer but you do want great battery life, then the Mate 10 Pro, as soon as the word battery is mentioned, it just comes to the forefront of my mind. But the speakers are easier to cover up. Do you game with headphones? If you game with headphones, you might not mind as much. If you don't, then you will. Also bear in mind the 18:9 aspect ratio on the Mate 10 Pro. It doesn't give you as much height, but it gives you a little bit of control on the sides. So if you play games which have on-screen controls that you want shifted to the sides, then the Mate 10 Pro may be preferable. But generally speaking, every time I do any gaming and I have these two phones next to me, I will always go to the Razer phone, and it all comes down to that form factor. And I'd say the Note 8 is probably the worst for gaming when it comes to the in-hand feel, because the sides are so buffed. They're like really smooth and slick. As soon as you get sweaty palms, they're kind of sliding everywhere. It's just not as comfortable, whereas this is a really nice matte metal, and it just feels great. It's beefy, it's solid, and it's just a good gaming phone, unsurprisingly, because I hear these guys have some experience in that field. I use the Honor 8 and it's really good for photography. That's from Ultimate Gamer. And yeah, the Honor 8 is really good for photography. And if you like the Honor 8, then you'll love the Mate 10 Pro because it has the same camera user interface. Which is more durable, iPhone 10 or Note 8? Couldn't answer that one for you. I haven't drop tested both of them. Let's see. Most of the questions now are questions that are similar to what we've seen before. Specifically, what I want to know is what you want to know between these two phones. And so while you have a think about that, I'm just going to wrap up my part of this. So, in a nutshell, if I had to pick, the design, I'd pick the Mate 10's design. I'd probably pick the Razer screen size because the 5.7 inches is nice and big, but I'd pick the Mate 10 screen technology. I like the OLED display. The reason that they couldn't go OLED is because that 120 Hz refresh rate isn't available on OLED displays just yet, but if I could, that's what I'd have. Both of these phones have a fair amount of storage, 128 gigs on the Mate 10 Pro versus 64 gigs on the Razer, but the Razer is expandable by micro SD card up to 2 terabytes, so you can get a ton of stuff on here. Still, in spite of that, I would take 128 gigs of storage non-expandable just because I know the upper limit of my storage requirements and it isn't 128 gigs. In addition, onboard storage is faster than SD card storage, so I just have a little bit more confidence in that. As far as the connections go, I haven't mentioned in too much detail Emotion UI, but if you do want to output to a desktop experience and want to geek out in that regard, then the Mate 10 Pro will be excellent as far as user interface goes. Whereas if you want to geek out in terms of tuning your gaming frame rates and stuff like that, that's when you'll want to geek out with a Razer. Gaming geeking and just gadget geeking, that's the difference between these two. The cameras of the Mate 10 Pro are going to be better. Fingerprint scanners are super responsive across both. However, I do prefer a rear-mounted fingerprint scanner as opposed to a side-mounted fingerprint scanner, which is what can be found on the Razer. They both are nice and speedy, and as far as the power under the hood goes, both of these are absolutely going to fly. And with 4,000 milliamp batteries across both, they will last a full day, the pair of them, but the Mate 10 Pro is the one that's going to get you into 2 days, and that's pretty much the extent of it. Neither of them have headphone jacks, though you do get the dongle, like I said, in the Razer box, and there is IP67 water and dust resistance on the Mate 10 Pro, and it has the case and screen protector. Right, wrapping up, last couple of questions, and interested in the Razer camera. Interested in the Razer camera, that's what all of you guys are asking. Maybe that needs to be the next video that we make. At the very least, check back at the end of this week for our Razer review, or at the beginning of next week. That's going to be written by John, presented by me. So if you watch this video and fire any questions that you have that you want me to cover in the review, the video review that we'll be posting, please do that. And that is all of your questions read, and I will do my best to answer in the comments section any that I didn't get to. Thank you guys, really appreciate it. You've been so talkative today and have given this live show some purpose. If you're not already subscribed to TechRadar, subscribe. Make sure you visit techradar.com. That's where you can read all of the words to go with all of the videos here on YouTube. Bye.